My name is Evie Carroll. I'm a second year studying international business. My degree subject is made up of tutorials, lectures and independent learning, and today I'm going to speak about tutorials. Before each tutorial, we're asked to prepare in advance. We're usually given reading lists, which we have to complete before each tutorial. We are given websites to look at, e-journals to look at, and we have to prepare by writing our notes down. In every tutorial there's about 5 to 15 students, and these are led by the tutors, which are usually masters or PhD students. And then when we come into the tutorial, we are put into small groups and we're asked to discuss our ideas, generate new ideas, and then feed back to the class. During our tutorials, there's lots of support given. Our tutors are there so that we can ask questions at any time. We also have our peers there, which we can also ask questions to. If we need help before the tutorial, we can email in any of the tutors and they'll provide you with help. The difference between lectures and tutorials is that in lectures you usually have about 200 to 300 students, whereas in tutorials there's about 5 to 15 students, which allows you to discuss matters, put your hand up and talk to your tutors about any difficulties you may have with a subject.
The Skoog is a new universally accessible musical instrument. It's designed for use by children or adults with special needs, or in fact for use by anyone. It's soft, it's easy to play, it's robust, and it can be customised to suit anyone's abilities. The Skoog helps children with special needs by allowing them to get involved in making music themselves. It's an instrument that they can play and they can take ownership of and start creating their own sounds and music. Traditionally, instruments are the shape and size and made of the materials they are because of the sound that they need to make. If you want something to sound like a plucked string, you need a string and it needs to be under tension. Whereas with the Skoog, because it's a mixture of software and a sensor, then the computer can handle making the sound, and so we can design an object that's designed to be touched and designed to be played with. In developing the Skoog and actually working with kids in the schools and in the classroom, it's really helped us make the Skoog something that's usable by the children themselves. They've informed us massively on how it needs to work, and they've given their opinion on colours and design, and just the feedback that they've given to us has been just marvellous. It's just so enriching, and it's really inspiring to actually work with these kids, particularly when you can provide them with an ability to start playing their own music as opposed to just taking part through listening and listening to other musicians and really learning from them.
These were the very first robots. They were characters in a play in the 1920s called Rossum's Universal Robots. And the play was written by a Czech writer called Karel Čapek. And basically, these robots, people tend to think of robots as kind of cute, cuddly toys or, Hollywood depictions kind of devoid of politics. But the first robots were actually created and imagined in a time of absolute political turmoil. You just had the First World War, finished. That had a devastating impact across Europe, and so people were kind of reflecting on what does it mean to be human, what makes us human, those kind of questions. And this kind of context is what inspired Čapek to kind of write this play. And interestingly, these robots being human, they are actually in the play assembled on a production line, a bit like the Ford manufacturing production line. So even though they are human, they are assembled, and these robots are designed to labour, and that is their primary purpose in society.
Flipping a coin may not be the fairest way to settle disputes. About a decade ago, statistician Percy Diaconis started to wonder if the outcome of a coin flip really is just a matter of chance. He had Harvard University engineers build him a mechanical coin flipper. Diaconis, now at Stanford University, found that if a coin is launched exactly the same way, it lands exactly the same way. The randomness in a coin toss, it appears, is introduced by sloppy humans. Each human-generated flip has a different height and a different speed, and is caught at a different angle, giving different outcomes. But using high-speed cameras and equations, Diaconis and colleagues have now found that even though humans are largely unpredictable, coin flippers, there is still a bias built in. If a coin starts out heads, it ends up heads when caught more often than it does tails. NPR's David Kestenbaum reports.
It is wrong, however, to exaggerate the similarity between language and other cognitive skills, because language stands apart in several ways. For one thing, the use of language is universal. All normally developing children learn to speak at least one language, and many learn more than one. By contrast, not everyone becomes proficient at complex mathematical reasoning, few people learn to paint well, and many people cannot carry a tune. Because everyone is capable of learning to speak and understand language, it may seem to be simple. But just the opposite is true. Language is one of the most complex of all human cognitive abilities.
What I decided to provide is the steps that I take when analysing my own questionnaires. However, before I begin, it would be useful to remind you of a few terms we use when talking about questionnaires. Questions can be divided into three types. This is sometimes called level of measurement. Firstly, we have category type questions, which are also known as nominal questions. These are when participants select from a list of categories for their response, such as male or female, or they may include ethnic origin. Secondly, we have ordinal type questions. These are similar to category questions, but instead of the categories being independent, there is some sort of order between them. If we ask people to indicate their age in categories, this is an ordinal type question. Thirdly, we have continuous questions. These are any question that can be answered by a number. It could be an open-ended question asking participants to tell you how many times they attended lectures, or how often they used a VLE, or it could involve asking them to rate the importance or intensity of some experience. The reasons I reminded you of these types of questions is that our choice of question dictates the types of analysis we can use. Therefore, it is important to get our questionnaires correct in the first place.
If your recruiting efforts attract job applicants with too much experience, a near certainty in this weak labor market, you should consider a response that runs counter to most hiring managers' motto: don't reject those applicants out of hand. Instead, take a closer look. New research shows that overqualified workers tend to perform better than other employees, and they don't quit any sooner. Furthermore, a simple managerial tactic, empowerment, can mitigate any dissatisfaction they may feel. The prejudice against too good employees is pervasive. Companies tend to prefer an applicant who is a perfect fit over someone who brings more intelligence, education, or experience than needed. On the surface, this bias makes sense. Studies have consistently shown that employees who consider themselves overqualified exhibit higher levels of discontent. For example, overqualification correlated well with job dissatisfaction in a 2008 study of 156 call center reps by Israeli researchers Saul Fine and Baruch Nevo. And unlike discrimination based on age or gender, declining to hire overqualified workers is perfectly legal, but even before the economic downturn, a surplus of overqualified candidates was a global problem, particularly in developing economies, where rising education levels are giving workers more skills than are needed to supply the growing service sectors. If managers can get beyond the conventional wisdom, the growing pool of too good applicants is a great opportunity. Baron Erdogan and Talia N. Bauer of Portland State University in Oregon found that overqualified workers' feelings of dissatisfaction can be dissipated by giving them autonomy in decision-making. At stores where employees didn't feel empowered, overeducated workers expressed greater dissatisfaction than their colleagues did and were more likely to state an intention to quit. But that difference vanished where self-reported autonomy was high.
Straight salary sales compensation plans aren't very common, but they do have a place in some organizations. With this type of structure, you'd pay your salespeople a straight, albeit competitive salary, like all of your other employees and nothing else. No bonuses, no commissions, and few, if any, sales incentives. This type of compensation plan is most often used when the industry you operate within prohibits direct sales. When salespeople work as part of a small group or team and all contributions are equal, when your sales team is relatively small, or when your salespeople are expected to spend much of their time on other responsibilities other than selling. However, these plans don't tend to offer motivation to salespeople, as there are no incentives for them to work harder. Salary plus commission sales compensation plans are possibly the most common plans used today. They're structured in a way that salespeople receive a lower base salary along with commission pay that makes up the majority of the total compensation. Organizations use salary plus commission sales compensation plans when there are opportunities to support all salespeople on this structure and when there are proper metrics in place for tracking sales to ensure that the splits are fair and accurate. This type of plan is often the better choice as opposed to straight salary because it offers motivation to increased productivity and to achieve goals. It also offers more stability. Sales people will still get some type of pay even if they're in training. When sales are low during certain months or if market conditions get volatile. However, it can be more complex to administer. Commission-only sales compensation plans are exactly what they sound like. You pay your salespeople for the sales they bring in and nothing else. There is no guarantee of income. These types of plans are easier to administer than salary plus commission and provide better value for your money, paid as they are based solely on sales achieved. They also tend to attract fewer candidates, but do attract the most top performing and hardest working sales professionals who know they can make a good income because they know how to sell. On the other hand, though, they can create aggression within your sales team and low income security, which can lead to high turnover rate and sales rep burnout from stress.
Community service is an important component of education here at our university. We encourage all students to volunteer for at least one community activity before they graduate. A new community program called One-on-One helps elementary students who've fallen behind. You education majors might be especially interested in it because it offers the opportunity to do some teaching, that is, tutoring in math and English. You'd have to volunteer 2 hours a week for one semester. You can choose to help a child with math, English, or both. Half-hour lessons are fine, so you could do half-hour of each subject, 2 days a week. Professor Dodge will act as a mentor to these tutors. He'll be available to help you with the lesson plans or to offer suggestions for activities. He has office hours every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. You can sign up for the program with him and begin the tutoring next week. I'm sure you'll enjoy this community service and you'll gain valuable experience at the same time. It looks good on your resume too, showing that you've had experience with children and that you care about your community. If you'd like to sign up or have any questions, stop by Professor Dodge's office this week.
Protons are finally transferred to the LHC both in a clockwise and an anti-clockwise direction where they are accelerated for 20 minutes to 6.5 TeV. Beams circulate for many hours inside the LHC beam pipes under normal operating conditions. For each collision, the physicist's goal is to count, track and characterize all the different particles. The charge of the particle, for instance, is obvious since particles with positive electric charge bend one way and those with negative charge bend the opposite way. Also the momentum of the particle can be determined. Large Hadron Collider (LHC) is the world's largest particle accelerator lies in a tunnel. The LHC is a ring roughly 28 kilometers around that accelerates protons almost to the speed of light before colliding them head-on. Protons are particles found in the atomic nucleus, roughly 1,000 millionth of a meter in size. The LHC starts with a bottle of hydrogen gas, which is sent through an electric field to strip away the electrons, leaving just the protons. Electric and magnetic fields are the key to a particle accelerator.